19th of 2020. Any corrections or revisions necessary to the minutes? If not, a motion to approve the minutes would be appropriate. Motion by Peckham, second by Herbst. We'll go ahead and do a roll call vote because we have one member on WebEx tonight. Peckham?
Aye.
Herbst?
Aye.
Wadinsky?
Aye.
I'll vote aye as well. Minutes are approved. Item number 2 is to consider approval or denial of various license applications. We have one denial recommended this evening for Sean Bordeaux. By our ordinance, anyone recommended for denial has the right to come and address the committee. Is Sean Bordeaux in the audience with us this evening? Sean Bordeaux? Let the record show he has not appeared. Also on the special event applications, you'll notice that this year Wausau Events has applied to do a reverse parade, which is a little bit different. The floats will be parked along the road in Marathon Park, and the viewers will travel past them instead of the floats traveling down the street. So kind of a creative idea for people to remain in their vehicle and still have some holiday fun. Our approval of this event, though, really is only as it pertains to traffic controls and city services. We don't approve the event itself because it's occurring in Marathon Park, which is a county facility. So with that, a motion to accept or deny licenses as recommended by staff would be appropriate. Motion by Peckham, is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Herbst. Further discussion or questions? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and vote. Wadinsky?
Aye.
Herbst?
Aye.
Peckham?
Aye.
I'll vote aye as well. And then those licenses are either approved or denied as per the recommendation. Item number 3 is discussion and possible action regarding an ordinance creating Chapter 5.0 Practice of Massage or Bodywork Therapy and related ordinance, Section 1.01.025, Paragraph 1, Sub A, Paragraph B, Schedule of Cash Deposits. You'll notice in your packets you've got a memo from the police department and some legal work that Tara has worked through. We have had some issues in our community in recent months with unlicensed massage therapy studios. And we have Lieutenant Melinda Pauls on with us to walk us through that a little bit. This ordinance, though, would allow for those facilities to be dealt with, I think is kind of where we left off. Lieutenant Pauls, do you want to walk us through this a little bit with some background?
Sure. Are you able to hear me okay?
We can hear you perfect.
Okay. So for the last couple of years, we have had a couple complaints come in from different businesses. They have had phone calls to their businesses asking for services that they don't render, and most massage therapists that are licensed in the state would not render those types of services. We actually had one this weekend that came in as well that we're going to be investigating. One of the particular parlors that we're looking at actually offered a client these services that were unwanted. So we have had these concerns for a couple of years. The biggest issue is most of the licenses are not practiced, or excuse me, most of the therapists that are offering these are not licensed. So this ordinance would adopt the state statute to give us the authority to go in and check these licensing. It would be very similar to what we do with bar checks.
Sure.
So they would have to have the license posted for the facility as well as the practicing therapist.
Okay. Committee members, any questions for Lieutenant Pauls on this item? We also have Police Chief is coming up to talk with us here. Welcome, Ben.
Thank you. And Lieutenant Pauls has done a lot of work on this issue over the last couple of years. And I'll just add a couple of things. So just to be clear with everybody, the services that Lieutenant Pauls is referring to are sexual services. Mm-hmm. So the complaints that are coming in are that there are unlicensed massage therapists who accept money for a massage and then at the end offer sexual acts. And so the difficulty for enforcement is that it doesn't meet the definition of prostitution, because prostitution has to be a sexual act for money or something of value. And so that doesn't meet the criteria here because it's a consensual act between two adults, and the money that's exchanged is for the massage.
Okay.
So that's the difficulty. We did, Captain Graham and Lieutenant Pauls worked on a survey that they sent out to all of our registered massage therapy businesses in the city. We had a really good response. We had 16 that responded. At least half of them are aware of these concerns and these issues. We have had other licensed establishments that have called and complained to us, and that's actually where this started up again recently, is that we got a call from a licensed business that was concerned because they were getting calls asking if they provide sexual services. And so, of course, as a legitimate business, they are concerned about that and wanted us to try to take action. So this ordinance started with, we reached out to West Allis. West Allis has an ordinance similar to this that's helped them in this regard, helped them enforce that. So to get back to the survey, we had 16 establishments responded, and all of them are in favor of us enforcing the state requirements for licensure. So it was a very positive response in terms of this ordinance specifically.
Excellent. Thank you for that background. Committee members, any questions for the chief or for Lieutenant Pauls? Go ahead, Pat.
Yeah, either one, I guess. I'm just wondering how you got the names or contact information for the places you did get, and do you feel that you also were in contact with some of the establishments that were offering the extra services?
I'd let Lieutenant Paul speak to that if she knows the answer to it. Otherwise, I can do my best.
Sure. So I actually just Googled massage parlors in the city of Wausau. We had over 30 that came up. Those are the ones that we sent to, including the ones that we know are offering these extra services.
Okay.
Did the extra services people respond to the survey?
The survey is actually an online survey, so we don't necessarily know which establishments specifically responded. I think some of them listed their names, but not all of them. So I guess the answer to that is I don't know. Unless, Melinda, you have more information than I do.
Most of the reputable ones did leave their names. None of the ones that I have concerns about or that we have had issues left their name, but I did receive a phone call from one of them that I had a good discussion with why we were looking at this ordinance. I don't know if they ended up participating in the survey though.
And I think it's also important to note that one of the significant concerns we have about these establishments is that of human trafficking. We know that there was maybe 18 months or so ago a case with an establishment similar to what we have here in Wausau, a case in Eau Claire, in which they had numerous human trafficking charges, and they made a lot of arrests out of that case. So that doesn't necessarily mean that it is definitely happening here, but it is definitely a concern that we have. And this ordinance gives us enforcement authority to make sure that people are licensed and that we know who's in that establishment, so that we can go in there and make sure that there aren't those types of issues occurring.
Excellent. Go ahead, Dawn.
Was this something that was just recently brought to your attention?
This has been something that we've been aware of for a couple of years now. Lieutenant Pauls and her team in the Community Resource Unit worked pretty extensively on it for quite a while, a couple of years ago. We don't have the ability with the way the laws currently are written to be able to go into the establishments and enforce anything. The state licensing isn't enforceable by us unless we have an ordinance of this type. Otherwise, it's up to state entities, and they just don't get to the municipal level to enforce the licensure at this time.
Okay, I have another question. Since this isn't my line of work, these people that are doing this illegally now, will you be able to shut them down once this ordinance is on the books?
Well, that's our hope. Our hope is that, our belief is that the individuals and the establishments that are performing the sex acts are not licensed. So we will be able to go in there and verify the licensure. If they're not licensed, we will issue citations and ask questions about what is actually transpiring in these businesses, and then we'll be able to use our nuisance ordinance and be able to talk to the landlords of the that they're renting from for these establishments and be able to shut them down in that way.
Okay, excellent.
If
Sounds like-
we aren't able to determine criminal activity going on. Of course, then we could shut them down pretty quickly.
Sure. Well, and that does sound like a tool that certainly would help to have in the toolbox. Go ahead, Pat.
Yeah, I'd just like to congratulate the city attorney's office and the police department for acting. I think, once you had kind of an idea of how to address this, for acting so quickly and bringing this to the city government.
Yeah, Lieutenant Pauls and Tara Alfonso have really been working hard on this, so the credit goes to them for sure.
Good stuff. Do we have a motion to approve the ordinance? Motion by Herbst, is there a second? Second by Peckham. Further discussion? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and vote. Herbst?
Aye.
Wadinski?
Aye.
Peckham?
Aye.
I'll vote aye as well, and that'll pass unanimously. Correct, right. So that action does approve both, creating the ordinance and the fine for the fee schedule, since we had them as one agenda item. Item number 4, discussion and possible action regarding an ordinance creating section 17.10.030, third-party inspections and reporting systems, amending section 17.08.010 codes adopted, section 17.10.010 fees designated, section 17.12.020 approved, section 17.16.010 authority to enter premises, section 17.16.030 investigation of fires, section 17.16.050 annual report, section 17.16.060 modifications, section 17.16.080 new materials, processes, or occupancies which may require permits, section 17.16.090 fire equipment on private property, section 17.20.010 permissions granted limitations, section 17.20.020 approval before issuance, section 17.24.010 general prohibition on outdoor burning and refuse burning, section 17.24.020 open fire and burning allowed by permit, section 17.04.010 orders to eliminate, section 17.48.010 inspection of exits, section 17.49.010 tents, section 17.49.030 access boxes, and section 17.49.060 fireworks and pyrotechnics. And what you have, you've got a memo in your packets from the fire department requesting that we adopt compliance engine software and Title 17 updates for the fire department. And they have put in a fair amount of time and research on this item. So with that, we do have Deputy Chief Bartek with us, and I believe we also have Brian Stahl and Sean Carragher from Wausau Fire who drafted the memo for your approval. Do you guys want to come up and just walk us through the compliance engine a little bit and explain, because the public watches us too, how inspections would be different if we were to adopt this program? Welcome.
Hi, I'm Sean Carragher. I'm one of the fire inspectors, and I'm just going to read a short paragraph that basically describes the compliance engine probably a little bit better than the way I wrote up that memorandum.
Yep, go ahead.
The compliance engine is a simple internet-based tool for code officials to track and drive code compliance, reduce false alarm activity, and provide a safer community. It provides a secure cloud environment to which third-party contractors that inspect, test, and maintain fire protection systems submit their reports via Brycer's web portal direct to the fire department, facilitating a more efficient review, tracking, and follow-up process with occupants to correct deficiencies and maintain systems. In addition to the web-based technology, the services include a team to administer hard and soft copy notifications, perform follow-up calls to increase testing and maintenance activity within the jurisdiction. The end result is a comprehensive and accurate aggregation of data around which buildings and what types of systems and when they were last tested, and if there are any open deficiencies that could jeopardize their successful deployment in the event of an incident. With the compliance engine, the authority having jurisdiction, which is the fire chief, will be better equipped to do more with less in the mission to drive 100% code compliance with the fire and life safety laws. So basically what that does is once we adopt the compliance engine, they will send out, they'll contact all of the contractors within the state that do any business in the Wausau area. They will let them know that we've adopted the compliance engine. They'll be required to upload every single one of their reports that they perform when they perform a testing or a service, and then that information is recorded. Currently, we just get bits and pieces. We don't really know when things are done until we go do the inspection, so it's more of a reactive type situation. With this, we will be able to look at any property to see what's been tested, if there's any issues that need to be followed up on prior to us going there and having to write up a fire code violation. This is free to the city, free to the fire department. It's free to all the businesses. The third-party contractors that perform the service have to pay a $15 fee when they upload per report, and that's typically on an annual basis.
Okay.
There's some systems that are biannual by fire code. Hood extinguishing systems, that's every 6 months. They don't track fire extinguishers, so that's not going to be on that report. But it's going to be sprinkler systems, alarm systems, things like that. And a lot of that stuff we don't have access to unless we ask for it.
Sure, and fire suppression systems and that.
Correct.
So then by having a third party track those, you guys will still be physically inspecting premises, right? But you'll
Yes.
just have way more intel on the building than you would today?
Yep, correct.
Is that, okay. All right, so they'll still be getting their semi-annual visits from,
Yep, and so what Brian would just mention for me to let you guys know, every once in a while we'll go to a place and say their sprinkler system was due in maybe July. And when we were there the previous January, it was still good. And if we get there September, maybe they didn't get somebody in there to inspect it, so they're a couple months behind. So what this does, instead of us writing up that fire code violation, giving them a 30-day notice, maybe another follow-up, the compliance engine will send out letters on our behalf. They get all this information from us. This will automatically get kicked out a little over a month prior as a reminder that they're coming due. And that'll be the reminder. They'll also have the contractor that was previously used, so that same contractor will hopefully get that business again. They're getting in there sooner, so they're on a 12-month rotation instead of a 15-month or sometimes longer,
So-
depending on when we get in there.
in the case of other types of violations that you guys discovered during your inspection, is the follow-up on those still going to happen in the fire department from our folks? But that won't be third party, will it?
No, just regular fire code violations, that's the stuff that we follow up on.
You guys will still take care of those?
Correct. Yep,
Okay.
this is mainly sprinkler systems, alarm systems, hood extinguishing systems, elevators, they'll be tracking all that stuff.
Sure, okay,
On our behalf.
okay.
so.
Committee members, any questions? Go ahead, Pat.
I have several. It was kind of a mouthful trying to digest all of this stuff.
I believe it.
Try
One of
reading the
the-
agenda item.
Yeah, that's bad. Anyway, well, and you just mentioned that, so there's no cost to the fire department, the city of Wausau, or business owners for this service. Is the deal that there would be a fee charged normally, and it would come to the fire department, but now the fee is going to be paid to this third
Nope.
party?
No, so what the $15 fee is, they charge the contractor that's doing the work. So if they do a $1,500 sprinkler system, fire alarm system, annual inspection, that'll be a $15 fee for them to upload that information. So it's basically a $15, information storage fee, I guess, or, record storage fee that this company maintains. And normally we don't
Contractor
see that
pays it.
stuff. I'm sorry?
The contractor pays it?
Correct.
And so the contractor is going to turn around and add a fee to his or her client?
Potentially.
could.
When I was doing my research with the other fire chiefs, fire marshals throughout the state that have already adopted this, they said that some contractors said that they'll pass it along as a record fee or, you know, something like that. They'll create something. But for the most part, the contractors, they're happy to get that business on a more regular basis rather than being delayed. So if they're doing it, you know, if they're getting delayed by a couple of months on a 12-month service, they might only get 4 inspections in a 5-year period instead of 5 like they're supposed to. So they're seeing increased revenue by getting back in there on time. And a lot of
So
the
they have better-
contractors are okay with that.
They have better business volume then.
Correct.
Okay,
Yep.
and since it's a third party, do you have any concerns about the integrity of the reporting?
Not at this time. They're working with some very large departments, Los Angeles, Atlanta. They're working to get FDNY, New York Fire on board. They've got Austin, Texas, so they've got a lot of larger departments that they're working with, so.
Okay, and then do you expect this to save your department a lot of personnel hours?
I believe so, because typically what happens if we have to go in there and we find a violation, we're going back 30 days later to follow up on that. And I think with a lot of these bigger systems, because they are expensive to maintain, you know, if they get a warning, you know, or I guess, you know, a notification, but just a reminder that they're coming due, they'll get that service done before we get there. We'll be able to see when these are all done, and currently we don't see any of that. So we can go onto their online portal or reporting system or however it works, but we can look up these properties before we even go there. We'll know if it's been inspected recently or not. We'll also see if there's any deficiencies, because normally we wouldn't know any of that stuff. And if they go in to do a service and a particular business has a deficiency and it might cost them money to fix it, they might say, you know what, just skip it. And, you know, they can't force them to fix it, you know, as a contractor. They can just let them know. And we wouldn't know about any of these deficiencies otherwise, because it would all be on the report. And otherwise, when we get there, we wouldn't know that, you know, maybe they had a couple of smoke heads that were out, or, you know, something else wasn't working properly.
Are you going to be able to be more thorough or diligent or more effective as a result of not having to chase this stuff around so much?
I would sure hope so.
Okay.
Well, it seems to me that if you're getting intel on, or, you know, information that we don't get now, that it may also flag you that when you get to a place to look for stuff you might not have looked for before.
Yep.
So.
Yeah, there's been other, I think Los Angeles, and I know they're much bigger than we are, but they came up with several hundred more systems that they weren't even aware of, because these systems were getting reported by these contractors, and under previous inspections, they didn't even know that they had existed. So
Wow.
it was something that they hadn't even looked at. I hope that that's not the case here. I hope that we know what's in all of our buildings, because we've been through them pretty thoroughly. But I believe that, you know, by having these systems being checked on a regular basis the way they're supposed to by fire code, I think there's going to be less false alarms. And we all know that when the fire department goes out on a false alarm, they're running, you know, 7 or 8 rigs out
Right.
to a call. And if they can reduce false alarms, that's a lot of resources as well.
Excellent. Okay. Additional questions? If not, is there a motion to approve the participation in the compliance engine? Motion by Peckham, is there a second?
I'll second that.
Second by Herbst. Further discussion? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and vote. Herbst?
Aye.
Peckham?
Aye.
Wadinsky?
Aye.
I'll vote aye as well, and that item is approved. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Item number 5 is discussion and possible action on public education efforts surrounding use of facial coverings to reduce the spread of COVID-19, and discussion of alternatives for mask access by citizens in need. You'll recall that at our last council meeting, we had quite a debate about our mask ordinance. And one of our alders did amend that approval to request that our committee have a discussion, or at least begin a discussion, about a couple things. First, how can we as a community better educate our residents on the need for and the proper usage of facial coverings to reduce the spread of COVID-19, and some alternatives for those in need to have access to masks if they don't today. And so I put it on the agenda tonight because I think it's an important discussion for us to begin. I guess first, with regard to mask access and for those in need, we don't know yet as a committee how large of a problem that is. We will need to, I think, reach out to some of our nonprofits who provide services to find out if they have issues first with either sourcing masks or distributing them. I don't know, Mayor, did you have a chance to reach out to Ben Lee at United Way at all?
I haven't talked to him specifically about this, but I do know they are, in the past, they did the mask handout. So we have access to masks through our emergency management partnerships, both those cotton masks and these surgical masks. And so it shouldn't be a problem if we need to do that.
Okay.
I can just give you a list of the things that are in the works right now.
Perfect.
What we're working on. Okay.
Yes.
So the first thing would be, I'll alert you to the fact that the county board, the Health and Human Services Committee, is looking to work with WIPs on kind of a more public engagement process when it comes to masks. I think it's an opportunity to hear from people who have all kinds of feelings about this, but to make sure that everyone is talking through this, understanding the science in theory. And so that's something that we could, I haven't reached out to them yet. I mean, they just discussed it last week in committee, but that is something we could partner with them on easily enough. The other thing, I had a discussion today with a firm who does marketing, and we're working with them on the utility side to talk through ways to save water. So I just reached out and we had a conversation about what we could do when it comes to masks. And they're all on board with things, with social media, with partnering with the health department, videos, things like that, to help us get the message out that wearing masks doesn't have to, be against your liberties and things like that. So kind of talking through that more of a, I don't know, I don't want to call it marketing, but it's more of a like PSA type information, but also very engaging. And so they're willing to help us across the board, social media. I'm willing to work with the television stations again. We worked with Channel 9 on a PSA with all the hospital systems. You've probably seen that one out and about recently. And then we obviously have all kinds of people that are willing to help us push this out when it comes, I don't want to call them influencers, but that's what I'm calling them. And our newsletter, things like that.
Okay.
So I think we have a lot of opportunity there. My problem is getting it out fast enough, but making sure it's right. So that's where we're at now.
Okay. It's good to know because that was the one question I had when we put this on the agenda about mask access is how big of a problem with mask access do we really have? And, I think that it's important that we know from all of the nonprofit providers that provide services to folks in need rather than to either assume they don't have the stuff that they need or that they're not already doing it. Because we hate to create an effort that's redundant. And I know that the warming center's plate is full with moving and, relocating and a shortage of volunteers. So
They all have access. They're all working with Phil in the same way we are, so it shouldn't be a problem.
Okay.
To hand out those masks if they need them. I know they have been doing this all along, though.
Okay, all right. And maybe that would be a good idea if we circle back with Ben Lee over at United Way and just see if there's any agencies that he's aware of too that need that outreach. I mean, if they all are working with emergency management the same way we are, the access issue might be less of a hurdle then. But I mean, if we find that it is a significant hurdle and there's a way we can help, we certainly could delve into that. And we could probably delve into it without committee direction. I mean, to get it going. I mean, that's not something that a committee has to manage. So the other subject, though, is with regard to education, is how do we get that word out, and is there a different approach that we could take in terms of promotions, in terms of information circulation? You'll notice in your packets, Alder Watson had done a little research on this prior to the council meeting, and she had found a couple links that were included in your meeting packet for how some other areas are approaching the subject, and she found a couple of those to be quite insightful. And I see that she logged on to join us today. Sarah, would you like to talk about what you saw a little bit as far as maybe some ideas?
I think it's along the lines of a lot what Katie was, or Mayor Rosenberg was already saying. It's the links that I found. It was just a large campaign done by the mayor just to have that transparency, that social media presence, just trying to get people within the community to like doctors, medical professionals, just sort of, I guess, try to get the proper information out there. So it sounds like she's got a good plan.
It does. Committee members, any questions on this item or any ideas? I did also, early in the, at the end of last week when I put this item on our agenda to talk through, I did invite Alder Killian to join us either in person or virtually because he was concerned about the fact that people who may need masks either may not be getting them or that the messaging isn't actually getting out there. So I don't see that he's logged on today, but we can also, I'll circle back with him and just let him know about our discussion and this certainly doesn't have to be a one-off discussion. I think if we find along the way that there's, actions that the committee needs to consider or take, we certainly can do that, but it does sound like there's some decent plans underway in the community already, I think, to promote. Go ahead, Mayor.
I just wanted to let you know that Bentley says he hasn't heard of anybody that specifically needs them, but he can go ahead and send out a note to see if that's an issue. And I did let him know that we have lots available through emergency management if we need to participate in that way.
Okay. Go ahead, Pat.
Yeah, I like the idea of reaching out to nonprofits and people serving maybe the lower income community among us, but I think we should also reach out to the community in general to see if there are people, most of the people I talk with seem to have half a dozen of the damn things hanging by the door, so I don't know in the general population how big the problem is, but I've been wrong before. And I'm wondering, I guess one of the things that I kind of got the heebie-jeebies over is that in that Massachusetts community where they had the citizen corps, and it sounded like these were people who were going out into public areas and reminding people about mask wearing and stuff like that. And I think it might be pretty quickly dubbed the Karen Corps because I don't think it would go over well at all to have a bunch of people wandering around the community, pointing at people and telling them they're, need to shape up. I just have to be very delicately approached, let's put it that way. But, and I do think I was a little interested, I guess, in the point about possibly having a distribution point at some place like the police department. I think that might be achieved by having people just come into the hallway and, the clerk or somebody could just point them to a box of the masks or whatever. But I think we do need to find out the level of need in the community first.
I think we do. I think we should assess that first, and then, obviously, there could be more than one distribution channel. Whether we, would have a, series of, distribution events where people could come and pick things up if they need them, or if our agencies are well-supplied and they're keeping the community well-supplied. I think this is something also that we could just keep one eye on and just make sure that it's okay, that it's happening and that, there's not some deficiency that, where we could help. I think that, I agree with communication core. I think that might be a little bit of a bridge too far because there is a lot of emotion surrounding the issue in our area. I do think, though, that from a promotional standpoint, I love the PSA that's out, that TV9 worked on. I think that, if there's factual, positive messaging that we need to assist with to make sure that that word is out. It's out, every channel you turn on has something on about it, so I think that it's something that's hard to miss. But, at the local level, I think if we utilize our social media, utilize our newsletter, that really from a communication standpoint are the best tools we have. And it sounds like you've already got that in your plan, Mayor, so.
Yeah, I hope that what we're working on and what we're moving towards is something that's almost entertaining, and people can feel good about what they're seeing, and it is a positive message instead of kind of lecturing folks, which I know that I tend to want to tell people the scientific facts and the data and all of that, but sometimes what you really need to just, I don't really care why people are wearing a mask, just wear it, so.
Right, no, I think that's good too, and I think a shift, like you said, versus maybe more to the information and entertainment realm versus the throwdown of authority, I think that would be received better. So it does sound like we've got a good forward plan. I don't know that we need to modify anything. I mean, a lot of these things can take place without a committee to approve or bless this task. So committee members, anything else on this particular subject? If not, we can keep an eye on it. If we find that there's something we need to do to help things along, we certainly can, but it sounds like right now that the wheels are already turning. Pat, go ahead.
Could we just have it on our agenda for next time to make sure that we're keeping
Like an
abreast
update?
of it? Yeah.
We
update.
can carry it over to next month with an update, just to see, if there's anything out in the community that we've located in the last month that maybe we need to attend to, sure. I mean, I think we can,
That'd be great.
we'll put an update on the agenda. You absolutely can. Michelle, go ahead.
Thank you. This is Michelle from Community Development. I'm not going to turn the camera around for you, Jim, but I'm over here. So one other thing that I don't think anybody has mentioned is about communication with our minority populations. And WIPS has a program that they're running right now to target both the Hispanic community here and the Hmong community here, and creating community liaisons that are already ingrained in those communities to help spread the message about masks and the information about COVID in a way that those communities can understand it. And I think for the Hmong community specifically, WIPS applied for CARES funding through community development and received that in our last allocation. So that's something that's going on with those two as well. I just want to make you guys aware.
Excellent. Go ahead, Mayor.
I do want you to know that that is something we're also talking about when it comes to our communications. That's important to us, that we're talking, and I guess influencers was vague, but we're looking across the spectrum at all kinds of different people.
Well, I think that's the thing, and I think to put out content that people can, view and download where they want to, an on-demand type situation, whether it's social media or whether it's, website video or whatever, I think is super helpful. So with that, we'll put an update on for next month and, just circle back and see if there's anything else that we as a committee need to do. But certainly approve that, or certainly support the plans that are already going on. Item number 6 is tavern activities, compliance checks, and law enforcement activities. You've got the report in your packet. Anything on the report that you want to talk through with Chief Bliven at all, committee? Go ahead, Pat.
Thank you for coming to the lectern there. I was a little curious about the incident at Rock's Place where there were a large gathering of a number of people that had their beverages outside. And the report said that they didn't stop to check on the crowd as there was sensed there were hostility toward police and there was a lack of resources at the time. Could you just talk about that a little bit and if that's a problem?
Well, I think it is a problem. So what I didn't follow, I followed up with Lieutenant Felder on the M&R station, but I didn't follow up with him in terms of the Rocks Place to see, because typically if something like that occurs where, if we have one officer available and there's a large crowd and they're, to go in and try to enforce an ordinance violation like liquor outside of an establishment where we only have one officer, we wouldn't want them to do that for officer safety purposes. So, but what should happen is there should be a follow-up, either when additional officers are available, that they can respond and talk to the owner or the bartenders or whoever's in charge of that establishment. And I don't know if that's been accomplished. So I didn't follow up with Lieutenant Felder, but I can do that.
Okay. All right, I have concerns also. I noticed that we're back up to 100 points at M&R Station again. And the narrative from Lieutenant Felder about the fact that it appeared with at least one specific incident involving a fight in the parking lot, it appeared that they were selective as to the video that they gave out. I'm concerned about that. And, we've had Rick here twice before, I mean, recently, in fact, where he had committed to do better and turn over this video and just, is going to turn over a new leaf. And this doesn't track with that. And, it's always something there. And so I don't know, we just had him in here for formal expression of concern. I believe it was in May or June when we had 4 of them. He was one of them. And so he knows that the committee is concerned. And I don't know if you want to circle back with him and just have a follow-up discussion with Rick Gordon about this video thing.
Yeah, so the direction that I gave Lieutenant Felder in regards to follow-up is to do a bar check at that establishment, because in this incident, there were witnesses that when I read the reports that indicated the way they knew there was a fight outside is because they saw it on the surveillance cameras,
Yeah.
which is apparently available for people to view and see on a TV. But we weren't offered that perspective or that film or that video from Rick Gordon when the officer went back there. So I asked Lieutenant Felder to follow up with that to see, if there is surveillance video from that angle or from that perspective, generally speaking. If they walk through the bar and there's a video of the surveillance outside, then we know that there's video probably available, in which case then I will call Rick and ask him to meet with me, and I will ask him about that.
Okay.
That video specific to this incident. And I think if he intentionally misled the officers and didn't provide video that was available, I think that's relevant for this committee.
Well, and I think we should also if we have a problem with alcohol outside at Rocks, which we've had before,
Yeah.
it wouldn't hurt maybe but keep one eye on that as well. The one thing I also noted was Aftershock, and Aftershock over on Leonard Street, we've had an ongoing issue there with them, and it's been different things since they moved in. Aftershock was formerly Tremors on Thomas Street. They moved over to Leonard Street. The building they're in has always been a bar, but both of the prior owners didn't present any problem for the neighborhood, and we didn't have issues like this over there. But this one, the neighbor actually took pictures of people doing drugs outside. Almost every weekend, there's alcohol outside, and the neighbors are seeing it. They're picking up bottles, and, they're calling, because obviously they want a clear record of what's happening there so that at some point we can take some action. The owner, when people go over there, it seems to want to do the right thing, but the owner is seldom there. And so the bartender in charge doesn't take care of it. I will tell you that after this contact, the owner's husband went next door and really chewed out the reporting party and informed him that we can't have the police called on us anymore because they're afraid now of the fact that we're going to hold create some measure of accountability over the call volume. And so we've had 3 neighbors that surround the place that are continuously disrupted by Aftershock. And so I think that it's important that we keep an eye there. And, I don't know, the sector patrol has been trying to watch it as they can, but the weekend there it's always something. And those neighbors are calling all the time now again.
Do you think it's appropriate for me to ask the owners to have a conversation specific to that conversation they had with the neighbor?
Yeah.
And the issues, of course, but.
Yeah, I think so. I think if you want to initiate that conversation with the owners, part of the issue we know happens is, or the neighborhood knows happens, is that the owner may have good intentions, but she's not there. And so whoever's in charge is not taking care of it. And so they've got people, the place has an indoor bathroom, but they're outside, doing that outside instead, everywhere. And, there's bottles and there's alcohol outside and they're loud and they're waking people up. And, it's one thing after another. And now this drug situation, when it was Baker's Retreat and it was something else prior to that, we had no issue between the tavern and the neighbors. But this has been, all year I've been getting complaints. And when we had our neighborhood group meeting before COVID-19, it was a common discussion at the neighborhood group for that northwest side. So, I think if you want to reach out to the owner and,
Yeah, I think that's appropriate. And then in regards to M&R, Rocks, and Aftershock, the places that we've had more more complaints about. We haven't done routine tavern inspections as a result of COVID.
Right.
But maybe for those establishments where we're having some struggles, we can do those.
Go back to
So,
them here and there, and yeah, I think that's maybe a good idea.
Okay.
You know, I just think that they may be aware that you haven't been around as much,
Yep.
and
Sometimes just that presence is helpful in reminding them they have to keep the establishment under control. So.
correct, definitely. Committee members, anything else on the report? Go ahead, Pat.
Just thought, I'm with you on the aftershock, and I thought it was telling that the sentence, "The owner asserted that she ran a family-oriented business without any of the issues reported actually occurring." Right.
Yeah, it's not, it's pretty much anything but, so. Anyway, so that said, and you know, but the funny thing was, is when they moved to that site, well, you know, when they were relocated off Thomas Street and they chose that site, we specifically asked that a discussion be had with them that, yes, that building has always been a bar, but that particular neighborhood is sensitive to, you know, all of the things that we're seeing, and they were committed that they were gonna be a good neighbor. Not that we've never heard this story before from a bar owner, but it's not turned out to be a good relationship, and they're really negatively impacting those neighbors. And the one next door, the one across the street is unhappy with it, but the one next door has it way worse. And that's been a problem, so.
Well, I think your point, it's very telling that Baker's Retreat, when it was there, I mean, we had barely any issues there, especially with the neighbors.
Right.
So I think that's telling.
It is. So, yeah, if you could start those conversations, and then we'll kind of watch the report and see if it has an impact. But I know that they went over there and were unhappy with the neighbor for calling after. And I said to the neighbor that they don't get to decide when they call and when they don't. If they're acting up, we want them to call, obviously. So,
Absolutely.
yeah, I mean, we don't want it to get to a point where people are ready to sell their house and move because of a tavern. We've had that in other neighborhoods, and we need to deal with that when it's happening, so. Anything else on the report, committee? I don't think so. We'll place the report on file then. We don't have to take action on it, and so we're all set then. The last item on our report is communications. I don't have any. Does anyone have any communications? All right, and if not, I'll accept a motion to adjourn. Motion by Herbst, is there a second? Second by Peckham. Members in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. We'll stand adjourned. Thank you, everybody, and thanks, Chief Livin.
Thank you.